Up on the mannequin, and Clint Hardick for the pants. Here you go, Danny.
I just wanted to. I got a quick story, and I'll never forget it. I had a great, probably two of the greatest years of my career ever racing against George. We kind of went head to head for a couple of years. We swapped championships, and. But during the whole time, I got to say that he was one rider that, you know, a lot of guys never really become friends. You don't, a lot of the racers today, it's always been that way. Guys, they just really don't get along. At the end of the day, they won't hang out and just be buddies. So George, I got to say, was that kind of guy. On the track, he was fierce, but afterwards, he was just awesome. He was a great guy. And, sorry, I'm a little nervous. But I got a story to tell. And and actually this bike was there in Russia in 1982. And in 82 in Russia, it was kind of hard for Americans to get into Russia unless you had relatives or you're a diplomat or you did some kind of event like the Olympics or something like that. So I got a visa to race the Grand Prix. And George and I, the whole story, we're at the hotel. At the hotel at that time, they're called tourist hotels. Everyone that came in outside had to stay at a hotel that the government controlled. So, and that night before, they had this huge party. All the diplomats and military and all the states people came in, and there's probably 600 or 700 people. This giant hotel and party room, and it was just amazing. So, earlier that day, I was in the parking lot, and I saw this soldier standing there looking at us working on the bikes, the mechanics, and I was looking at the guy. He was standing kind of straight and was looking forward, like he was looking for something. Someone was going to bomb him or something. And I went up to him and I said, he was kind of standing off the side. And I go, can I buy your belt? He had this really cool brass belt with a star and a sickle, in the middle of it. And he looked at me and he's shaking his head. He's like sweating. And so anyway, he pointed to his watch and like at a certain time to be here. He didn't speak a word of English. I didn't speak any Russian. So he comes back. At that time, it's like 5:30. He brings a complete Russian uniform. And so I gave him $100. He was like the happiest guy in the world because he probably lives in Chicago now or something. So anyway, he gives me this suit and a complete suit, and about a minute later, there's this giant explosion in the parking lot, like it was a giant bomb. Heinz Kindergartner just lit an acetylene oxygen bomb under a truck, and so all these military guys are running around. They think somebody's fighting. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, make a long story short, I've got this suit. I don't know what to do with it. And Jobe, I was showing George. He goes, "Look what I got." And he's all, "Danny, you got to wear that to the party tonight." I'm all, "F you, I'm gonna go to Siberia, and you're gonna, for you're Belgium. They don't care about you, So he goes, "Give it to me. I'll wear it." I go, "Are you nuts?" So anyway, he goes up to my room. He puts on this complete Russian uniform. And he walks down the stairs. I'll never forget this. And there's hundreds of people, military, everybody. And he marches in like this. I go, "I can't believe this." So all these guys ran over to him because they knew, because everyone was laughing and they're joking. So they run over to him. They start taking the clothes off him. And "Where did you get this?" And George just goes to me. I go, "Thanks, George." He totally burned me. So this is the night before we raced, and so anyway, the guy that took it, the head guy in the military that was there, I sat down. He asked me, "How'd you get it? Where's the guy?" and this and that. And I felt really bad because inside the leather belt there was a name, and so I figured it was his. And so anyway, I said, "What am I going to do the night before?" So the guy offered me some vodka and started drinking. The night before Grand Prix, I'm drinking. I never drink. And I'm drinking vodka, doing shots with this guy. And so I was kind of schmoozing him a little bit, and then at the end of the night, he goes, "I want to give you something." So he took the suit, everything was gone. I went to my hotel room. I gave him some shirts, some t-shirts, some JT stuff. And he gave me back everything but the hat. So it was really cool. Anyway, we did some trading and it was really cool. But it was a great story. And the next day, George and I, for 45 minutes, we never left each other aside for 2 45-minute motos. I saw yellow the whole time, and probably the best racing I'd ever did. So that's my memory of George.
Well, I think it's just really great that Scott's doing this for George, because George was one of the unsung heroes and one of the JT riders that I didn't know really as well as Marty and Danny and Chuck and Scott and all the other you guys that are here today. But there's a couple of things I do remember specifically about George that always stuck with me, and it was one of the stories is that when he first came to JT to be sponsored, he had begged and begged and begged to ride for us, and we had him down. He was here in the USA. He came down to the factory, and John Gregory negotiated with him, and finally they signed a contract. And I'll never forget, after that, George came into my office, and he had this big smile on his face and this twinkle in his eye, and he looked at me and he said, "Rita, I am a JT rider. This year I will be champion." And he was champion, and he had that great confidence in us, which I appreciated. But more importantly, he knew that he was going to be champion. And a little later on, George got a big contract from a company by the name of M. Robert in Europe, and he left JT. And we kind of lost touch with him for a long time. But about 6 months before George passed away, I reconnected with him. And he was so happy to reconnect. And he said, "Rita," he said, "I love my JT as much today as I did the very first day. And by the way, I was in love with your daughter. I never told her, but I was in love with your daughter." So you should have told her. But anyway, he was one of the great guys, and one of his disappointments was when the new JT reorganized. They got all these riders together, Danny and Chuck and some of the others, and they forgot about George. But George was a great world champion, and he did that in JT clothing. And I have to say that the reason we made our products the way we did was we had the greatest riders in the world. And they always would let us know when something wasn't working or something needed to be changed or something needed to be innovated. And that we made for these guys, and you guys got the benefit because whatever they rode with, we pulled right off the shelf for you. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I just thank you so much for supporting us all those years.
Thanks, Rita.
Chuck Sun, everybody.
Now, Berner and a group of us were able to go to Farley Castle a couple years ago, which was really a track that all the GP riders look forward to. Graham Noyce won his championship there. So 2 years ago, Georges was having some medical problems. We heard he was in the hospital. Next thing you know, he shows up. And for opening ceremonies, they like to have the riders take a lap around the track without their helmets. And we're thinking, well, he's just going to hang out. Nope. He fires up a bike and goes out there in probably his last lap that he did. But it's really a testament to how tough motocrossers are, in particular Jobe. And it was a real pleasure to see him do that lap. And kind of a tribute, that night in the beer tent, he got up and did a big speech about what he thinks of the condition of FIM GP racing and not supporting the riders. So, in tribute to him, I want to just carry that message on. And it was something he was really passionate about, standing up for the riders' rights and the abilities to get paid. But here's to Jobe.
Thanks, you guys. I really appreciate it. Ed, you want to say anything?
Nope, everything's been said that needs to.
Dan?
I appreciate being here.
Okay.
Thank you.
You guys are like me. Okay, that was great.